Why do we teach our daughters that love means disappearing? At 78, I finally know who I am. It took me 72 years to figure it out. 72 years of being someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's helper, someone's comfort. But never just me. Never simply myself, standing alone, complete and whole, without definition by someone else's needs. I'm not here to complain about my life or make anyone feel sorry for me. I had a good marriage. I raised children I'm proud of. I fulfilled every expectation society placed on me, but somewhere in all that fulfilling and helping and sacrificing, I vanished. And the worst part? I didn't even notice I was gone until my husband died 7 years ago, and I looked in the mirror and had no idea who was looking back. The woman staring at me that day was a stranger. She had my face worn and lined from decades of worry and work. But behind those eyes was emptiness, where a person should have been. I'd spent 60 years building a life around other people, and when my husband was gone and my children had their own families, I discovered I'd forgotten to build anything for myself. No hobbies that were truly mine, no friends I saw independently, no dreams I was working toward, just routines and obligations and the gnawing sensation that I'd been robbed of something precious. Except I was the thief and the victim was me. Let me tell you what they taught us, the women of my generation. They taught us that goodness was measured by how much we gave up. The more you sacrificed, the better woman you were. A good wife puts her husband's career before her own interests. A good mother centers her entire existence around her children's needs. A good daughter takes care of aging parents without complaint. We learned these lessons so thoroughly that we couldn't even see them as lessons. They felt like truth, like natural law, like the only way to be a decent human being. I got married in 1968 at 22. I had dreams back then, vague, uncertain dreams, but real ones. I wanted to study literature. I wanted to travel. I wanted to write, though I'd never said that out loud to anyone. But marriage came, and then pregnancy, and my dreams got filed away in some mental drawer labeled someday. Someday when the kids are older. Someday when we have more money. Someday when life calms down. Someday never came. When I was 35, I thought about going back to school. I mentioned it once at dinner. My husband wasn't cruel about it. He never was. He just looked confused, like I'd suggested taking up skydiving or moving to Mars. "What would you study?" he asked. "What would you do with a degree at your age?" His words weren't meant to hurt, but they planted a seed that grew into a thorny vine of doubt. What would I do? Who did I think I was? And just like that, the idea got filed back in the drawer. When I was 55, I thought about it again. The kids were grown and gone. We were financially stable, but then my mother got sick, and my sister needed help with her divorce, and one of my children was going through a hard time. There was always something. Someone always needed me, and I told myself that being needed was the same as being valued, that exhausting myself for others was the same as being loved. Here's the truth nobody prepared me for. You can't pour from an empty cup, and I was bone dry. I was tired all the time. Not just physically, but in my soul. I resented the very people I was sacrificing for, then felt guilty about the resentment, then pushed harder to prove I was still good and selfless and worthy. It was a cycle that had no end, no relief, and no acknowledgement that I was slowly dying inside. My husband passed away when I was 71. We'd been married for 43 years. The grief was real and deep, but underneath it was something else. Something that felt shameful to admit, relief. Not relief that he was gone, but relief that for the first time in decades, no one needed anything from me. My calendar was suddenly, terrifyingly empty. The first few months were foggy with grief and logistics, but eventually I had to face the silence. I had to confront the fact that I had no idea what to do with myself when I wasn't doing for others. I'd watch television without seeing it. I'd cook elaborate meals for one. I'd clean an already spotless house. I was going through the motions of life without actually living. Then one morning, I woke up angry. Not sad, not numb. Angry. I was 72 years old, and I'd spent 7 decades living as a supporting character in someone else's story. I'd postponed and sacrificed and waited for permission that was never going to come because I'd been asking the wrong people. The only person who could give me permission to live my own life was me, and I'd never asked. That week, I enrolled in community college. Literature, the thing I'd wanted to study at 35. My children thought I was having some kind of breakdown. "Why now, Mom?" they kept asking. What's the point? The point was that I was still alive and still capable, and still deserving of pursuing something that interested me, regardless of whether it led anywhere practical or impressive. Sitting in that first class was terrifying. I was decades older than everyone else. My hands shook when the professor called on me. But when I spoke about the book we'd read, something happened. My voice didn't shake. My ideas were valuable. I wasn't just someone's mother offering an opinion. I was a student, a thinker, a person with something to contribute. I started saying no. This was revolutionary for me. When my daughter asked me to babysit so she could run errands, I said, "Not today, I have class." When a friend volunteered me for yet another church committee, I said, "I appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm not available." Each no felt like I was doing something wrong, breaking some unspoken rule, but nothing terrible happened. My relationships didn't crumble. My children didn't disown me. Life went on, except now I had time for things that fed my soul instead of only draining it. I joined a book club with women I didn't know through family connections. I took a painting class, even though I had no talent and didn't care. I traveled to places I'd always wanted to see. Nothing exotic or expensive, just small trips to cities with museums and history and bookstores. I started writing, badly at first, but with increasing confidence. I discovered I had opinions about things that had nothing to do with anyone's dietary restrictions or schedule conflicts. Here's what surprised me most. The people who'd relied on me so heavily didn't fall apart. My children managed their own problems. My friends found other volunteers. The world kept turning without me holding it up. I'd believed I was indispensable, that my sacrifice was necessary and noble. But the truth was more complicated and more freeing. I'd been enabling everyone to avoid their own growth while stunting my own. The last 6 years have been the best of my life. Not because they've been easy or because I've accomplished anything impressive by worldly standards. They've been the best because I finally know who I am when I'm not performing a role or meeting an expectation. I'm a woman who loves British literature and terrible mystery novels. I'm someone who paints badly but enjoys it anyway. I'm a person who values deep conversations and quiet mornings and the freedom to change my plans without consulting anyone. If you're a younger woman listening to this, I need you to understand something. You have choices I didn't have. You have opportunities I couldn't have imagined. You live in a world that, for all its remaining problems, at least acknowledges that women are full human beings with inner lives and legitimate ambitions. Don't waste it. Don't do what I did. Don't postpone your dreams until everyone else's needs are met, because that day will never come. There will always be someone who needs something. There will always be a reason to wait. Being a good partner or parent doesn't require erasing yourself. You can love people deeply and still maintain your own identity. You can be generous and kind while also setting boundaries. You can care for others without sacrificing every dream you've ever had. These aren't contradictions, they're necessities. Because when you disappear into other people's lives, you don't become more loving. You become resentful and exhausted and less capable of genuine connection. I'm not saying don't help people. I'm not saying don't make compromises or sacrifices when they're necessary. I'm saying that you matter too. Your dreams matter. Your time matters. Your identity beyond your relationships and roles matters. And the guilt you feel about prioritizing yourself? That's not your conscience speaking. That's programming from a world that benefits when women give and give and give without expecting anything in return. For those of you who are older, who maybe see yourself in my story, it's not too late. I started reclaiming my life at 72. You can start today, wherever you are, whatever your circumstances. Take one small step towards something that's just for you. Read a book you've wanted to read. Take a class. Say no to one obligation you've been dreading. Join a group that interests you. The first step feels impossible until you take it. And then it just feels necessary. My children have come to respect my boundaries, even if they don't fully understand them. My friends have adjusted to the fact that I'm not always available. And I've discovered that relationships based on what I can do for people weren't really relationships at all. They were transactions. The connections I've built in these last years, based on mutual interest and genuine affection rather than obligation, are richer and more fulfilling than anything I had before. Someone asked me recently if I regret the decades I spent prioritizing others. That's complicated. I don't regret loving my husband or raising my children, but I do regret believing that love required self-erasure I regret all the times I said no to myself so I could say yes to everyone else. I regret not understanding sooner that you can't give from a well that's empty, and that filling your own well isn't selfish, it's survival. Your life is not a practice run. This is it. These are the only years you get. And spending them waiting for permission to pursue your own interests, develop your own identity, and honor your own dreams is a tragedy. Not a dramatic, sudden tragedy, but a slow, grinding loss of the person you could have been. Here's what I want you to do. This week, do one thing that's entirely for yourself. Not self-care in the sense of taking a bath so you can better serve others tomorrow. I mean something that feeds who you are as an individual. Sign up for a class. Start researching a topic you're curious about. Set a boundary with someone who's been taking advantage of your time. Call an old friend you've lost touch with. Write down a dream you've been postponing and one concrete step you could take toward it. Then do it again next week and the week after that. Build a life that includes you, not just the roles you fill for other people. Because 78 years from now, when you look back on your life, I want you to see a person who lived fully and authentically, not someone who disappeared while everyone else prospered. The permission you've been waiting for? I'm giving it to you, not because I have any authority, but because you need to hear it from someone. You are allowed to have dreams. You are allowed to pursue interests. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to matter in your own life. Now stop waiting and start living.